Hey, what's going on? It's Stokely from Soul Sound Delay. I'm trying to reorient my phone and took some things off of my keychain. It was making a lot of noise, but I should have been checking my stuff anyway. There's times when I'm on, and most of the times I'm not on. I mean, actively being aware and conscious of what I'm doing and taking consideration of things. So I'm missing a lot, regarding what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not going to let it too much overwhelm me. And that is kind of a result of overconsumption. I was thinking that, you have celebrities, let's say extreme case. You got celebrities that's self-delete. You got guys like Robin Williams. I mean, he was going through some struggles. You got guys like Kurt Cobain. You got, I don't know, Janis Joplin, you got Phyllis Hyman and stuff like that. Some of them were going through some kind of relationship problem. Some of them had a drug problem. But materially and socially, Amy Winehouse, materially, socially, people would believe that, they got it all, they got it all. They got the fame, they got the look. People desire them, people want to be around them, they got the money, they're getting to see places. We're looking from our perspective. We're looking from our perspective of valuing those things as the end all and be all, or the epitome of success, or the representation of success, or it's gonna feel like, yeah, I'm finally there now. I'm there now. I got the fame, but it doesn't end. Consumption doesn't end. Just like eating food. Like, if I eat some food today, doesn't mean that I will not want to eat tomorrow. No. So we're consuming these things, whether someone is self-medicating because they're on drugs, because they have an addiction, and like I said, like Keith Murray says, a drug is a drug is a drug. So addiction doesn't have to just be illicit drugs, or addiction could be anything. It could be spending, it could be rumination, it could be negative thoughts, it could be inhaling computer cleaner, whatever. It could be anything, anything done to the point of abuse, in my opinion. Anything done in excess. There's a small amount of things that are good, like even turmeric, right? For instance. Now, you could probably abuse turmeric. Now it's not giving you a high in the traditional form of what we think of as a drug. You're not getting a high from it per se. Maybe you're getting a social oxytocin, serotonin, whatever high from saying, oh, I take turmeric too, so I'm cool, I feel good taking it. Yeah, maybe you get that, but and then maybe it also balances your gut biome by killing the bad gut bacteria and make you feel better. Maybe, but you're not traditionally getting a high from it. You're not getting dopamine, I don't think, from it. Maybe it optimizes the ability to get dopamine by killing some of the bad bacteria that's poisoning your brain. Yeah, maybe, but it's not like it's like, oh, I need that turmeric. Oh, I gotta have my turmeric. Oh, it makes me feel good. No, it's not like that. But in moderation, it's good as an anti-inflammatory. It's good to help to kill the bad bacteria in your gut. But taken in excess, it could damage your liver. Other over-the-counter type of drugs, recently we found out, like these painkillers, they can also damage your liver if used in excess. They can, aspirin can damage the lining of your stomach in excess. My mother was telling me that, every drug basically gets processed in your liver. So, that's really almost applicable to anything that you ingest, any kind of, I guess medication that you ingest. It's going to be processed in the liver, and it has the potential to, in excess, to hurt you, So, whether it's Kurt Cobain, just because of the name, the rhyming of his name is associated with cocaine. I don't know if Kurt Cobain actually used cocaine, but when rappers talk about Kurt Cobain, they're always talking about cocaine. So I don't know. Maybe he did. Robin Williams, I don't know Robin Williams to be using anything. Maybe he was on alcohol. We know that Amy Winehouse was on alcohol. And I think, like a Janis Joplin was on alcohol. I'm just talking about people that self-deleted, that we thought that were successful people. Consuming things that are external of you, for the most part, are not really the source of peace. Like endless consumption, like perpetual consumption. It doesn't seem like, I don't believe that's the path to peace, internal peace. Now, getting your mind, getting your frontal cortex in good condition, yeah, maybe it might require some drugs. Maybe it might require some herbs. Maybe it may require some teachings that somebody gives you that you can learn how to, meditate or think properly, or think more sustainably, and hold thoughts that are good for your body and your overall health and mind. But I mean, if you have the teachings on self-regulation, meditation, and all these things, which I still don't understand how meditation works, but once you have the techniques, I would think, on how to live, exist, survive without too much excess external stimulus or consumables, I think you run more efficiently. Even a car, you can put too much gas in a mixture to the engine, and it'll flood the engine, and the car won't drive. You can say, well, I put gas in it. Well, you put too much gas in it. Put too much gas in it, the vehicle couldn't burn the amount of gas that was going in it. Filled up the piston with gasoline. Now you got hydroshock, right? And you might even start a fire or something like that. So, the hydroshock is going to prevent the piston from moving. You're probably not going to get a spark because the piston can't move. Or you might get a loud bang or something like that. The engine might backfire. Yeah, you might get some backfire. So things in excess, things abused, are no good. So watching, laying down too much, not good for you. Jogging too much, not good for you, right? Too much food, not good for you. Too much water can drown you, or too much water can, deplete your minerals and your electrolytes, and you can hurt yourself just probably drinking 4 gallons of water. I think it's 4 gallons or 5 gallons of water. 4 gallons of water or 5 gallons of water is fatal. And that's not being drowned by it, that's drinking it. And water is a wonderful thing. So anything in excess is too much. So, one of the things is that, one of the things I noticed, or one of the things that we're already aware of, is that marketing, when it comes to marketing products or anything that's for sale, sometimes they make you feel inadequate, or many times they make you feel inadequate by saying, listen, you need to get this to feel whole. You need to get this to feel happy. You see these people in this commercial, all of them are laughing and they're joking with each other and they're feeling happy after using this thing or buying this thing. They're having a wonderful social experience. You're not really having a good time because you don't have this product. This product is going to increase your probability of having a good time, of feeling good. You know, when you watch, for example, it's not only that, but whether it's an alcohol commercial, whether it's a medication related commercial. I don't really see a lot of beer commercials anymore on TV. I don't know why that is. I think maybe they cut back on them, which is a good thing. I don't see that many beer commercials anymore on TV. But maybe I'm not really watching regular TV. I'm watching kid stuff. So whether you're watching a beer commercial or whether you're watching a commercial on some new medication, you see the individuals in the video smiling and laughing. They look very happy, right? Because it's to imply and suggest that this product, this item, will make you like them. When you get it, people who use it, they're happy. People who use it, people like them. People who use it, you know, they're able to socialize and they're able to go outside and ride a bike and all these other things, you know? So, you know, so it comes down to a lot of times we're consuming things because we feel inadequate, whether it's even food, you know. Consumption is like our go-to response to discomfort, any kind of discomfort, physical discomfort, psychological discomfort, social discomfort. You know, people believe that they need to drink alcohol to socialize sometimes, you know, so they're uncomfortable socially, so they're like, you know what, I need to imbibe this alcohol and then it'll make me feel able to talk to people. You know, I need to subscribe to, I don't know, a new gym. I don't know. I need to subscribe to a new theology, a religion, because whatever. You know, I was listening to a church sermon the other day, and you know, I'm all into meritocracy and earning your keep, and the world kind of works in processes. You know, I believe in process. You know, input and output. You know, you subscribe to the you do the work and then you get the pay. So, you know, that's probably about 75, 80, you know, maybe 90% of the time it works out that way, right? You do the work, you get a reward if you're doing the work in the right direction, right? That's on a it's not applicable to every situation. Socially, we shouldn't really be doing things for people in order to seek reciprocity, or because you're going to get disappointed, because humans are very dynamic and unstable. Well, unstable is a bad word. Come on. Humans are very dynamic and they're asymmetrical, you know. So it's not an input and output situation like that. Now, if you take a calculator and you say 1 + 1 and you press the enter button, you're going to get 2. Now, humans don't really work like that, you know. So, but anyhow, for the most part, let's use our imagination in the relative areas. If you do the work, you get it. You put an input and you get an output. Maybe not right away, but whatever. Right? So I believe in that. So I'm all for, you know, you believe in God and then you go to heaven. You know, if you don't do it, then He sends you to hell. You know. But the only thing about that paradigm is that, even though there's about close to 9 billion people on the earth, the religion that subscribes to that paradigm is probably, I don't know, 1.5 billion out of the 9 billion, or 2 billion out of the 9 billion. There's another 3 billion that believe that, listen, you only go to hell for a little bit, right? Then there's probably another 3 billion that say, well, hell doesn't exist. There's no hell. You just get reincarnated. So, who gives, you don't know, someone who is fearful like myself wouldn't even entertain making a statement like that, because I'm fundamentally grown up in a Christian type of environment. But what do you realize is that people of all religions and all faiths can do great things and can do horrible things. And some of these ideologies, believe that they're the only way. Now, how do they know that they're the only way? Right? It's good to aspire to. Like, I believe in religion. I believe everyone should pick one and work with it, because it's not only has some scientific basis to it, like some of the dietary practices and some of the social requirements are definitely sustainable strategies, sustainable techniques that are helpful. So I think that just pick one and work with it. You know what I mean? As long as it's all about peace and love, if that's what it's all about, that's what it's all about. But I'm going too much on this specific topic, but I'm just saying that consumption is not necessarily the answer to stuff. Consumption is not the answer to stuff. Sometimes it's internal peace and being satiated and accepting yourself. When you feel inadequate, you start reaching out for something. And that's when the marketers, and that's when, even the scammers and people that maybe want to mislead you or exploit you. Oh my God. These motorcycle guys kind of squeeze in between the cars. Anyhow, when you feel inadequate, it creates an opening. It creates a vulnerability. And I think it's Buddha that said, desire is the beginning of suffering. Desire is the beginning of suffering. I would expand that word desire and say expectation. Desire, expectation is the beginning of suffering. Like, look at this, going back to dealing with people. We might do something for somebody and expect them to reciprocate. We're desiring for them to reciprocate in a way that we want. We desire or expect them to reciprocate. And that creates the opportunity for disappointment. And that disappointment, you could call it suffering, whatever. I mean, we even have expectations for ourselves. I expect that I'm not going to buy any Dunkin' Donuts today because I'm trying to save my money. And I expect the administrative assistant to the company to put snacks in the break room today so I don't have to buy any food. I'm going to just eat snacks all day. I'm expecting that, right? But guess what could happen? My expectation, I might show up and there's no snacks. There's no tea bags, which are full of microplastics anyway. But there's no snacks, there's no tea, there's no bananas, there's no apples. Oh, it's a wonderful place to work. And then I suffer. I have to suffer through the whole day without anything to eat. Because I was expecting it instead of preparing for myself. Anyhow, so I'm just saying, Buddha says, desire is the beginning of suffering. Expectation is the desire of suffering. It's the beginning of suffering. The Christians might say, listen, man, there's a lot of idioms, there's a lot of beliefs that are attributed to Christianity that people just made up in the last few years just by repeating it, anyhow. But they'll say, Jesus is all you need, right? Oh, don't be conformed to the world, right? Keep your eyes on Jesus, right? Keep your eyes on God, right? Well, all these things are saying that don't be conformed to the world means reject the world. And, it also says that you can't serve God and serve man-mind. Man-mind is like money, anything that's man-made. It says it's something else like, there's a story. It's also in. This story is also in Hinduism, and I spoke about this before. Jesus meets a rich guy, and he says to the rich guy says to Jesus, listen, Jesus, I never did nothing wrong to anybody. I do everything. I do all my religious practices. I conform. I do keep all the holy holidays, and I do everything. I don't do nothing wrong to nobody. Can I get to heaven? Jesus said to him, well, give up all your stuff, and then you can come to heaven. Basically, then you can follow me. You know what I mean? Give up all your stuff, and then you can follow me. And the guy went away, and he was upset. It's like, what are you talking about? I did everything that I'm supposed to do. Now you want me to give up my stuff? Well, the point of that was that, listen, you can't take the world. You can't hold on to the world and hold on to the spiritual at the same time. All your stuff is holding you back. So, it's just basically, kind of in line with what I'm saying, or I'm kind of in line with what that parable was saying. And I think that's the parable where he says, it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven, or something like that. So all that stuff is blocking you from all the material that you're accumulating, all the material that you're appropriating, whatever the case may be, and collecting and hoarding. It's not going to fill you. All the drugs not going to fill you. All the alcohol not going to fill you. All the Dunkin' Donuts not going to fill you. That's me. All the negative thoughts and the disrespectful behavior and the ratchet behavior and the whatever chemicals that you're using on your body, and it's not gonna give you peace. What's gonna give you peace is rejection of everything that's external and being satiated with yourself and being satisfied with yourself, with what you have. And like I always like to say is that YouTube, Bono has a verse, has a riff in a song. He says, what you don't have, you don't need it now. What you don't have, you don't need it now. We look at other people, whether it's in the Manjaro commercial, whether it's in the Levitra commercial, whether it's in the Cialis commercial, whether it's in the Viagra commercial, whether it's in the Budweiser ad, whether it's in the Coors ad, whether it's in the Levi's ad, whether it's in the Dolce & Gabbana ad, whether it's in the Savage cologne ad, or the Tiffany's perfume ad, whether it's in whatever it might be, whether it's the Sandals Resort ad, whether it's the Carnival Cruises ad. It's good to go places and see things. I'm just saying that more consumption isn't necessarily going to help you. The external things aren't going to help you. It goes back to that thing. But since I mentioned the Jesus parable, the Krishna parable goes like this. And this was told to me by a Hindu. So the Krishna parable goes, Krishna meets a rich man, and the rich man says, Krishna says to the rich man, says basically, what do you want from me, rich man? He doesn't, what do you want from me? The rich man says, I want more riches. And Krishna says, all right, here, go ahead, more riches for you. The rich man goes away happy, right? The poor man that had one cow meets Krishna, and Krishna says, all right, poor man, what do you want from me? The poor man said, Krishna, I want to be with you. And Krishna kills the poor man's cow, the only possession that he had. Right? I mean, and I guess the guy that was walking with Krishna said, why did you do that? You know what I mean? And I don't know the rest of the story, but it's a similar story where the guy who wanted to be encumbered by wealth and stay on the earth, and basically, he's just gonna go through his temporal thing and get old and die and go into the earth and turn into plants or whatever. But the other guy now wants to be with Krishna, which is a higher level of intelligence and a somewhat timeless intelligence, and potentially, right? Heaven, right? So the poor guy is going to be with Krishna. He said he wanted to be with Krishna, and Krishna made it possible by removing the encumbrance that was keeping him on the earth. And it's funny that, so Buddha is after Krishna. Buddhism came after Hinduism, right? Buddhism came after Hinduism. And Buddha was living in a palace. He was rich. And then he got married and he had a baby. And he said, oh man, listen, this child here is the only thing that's keeping me on this, that's an encumbrance to me on this earth. He didn't use the word encumbrance. That's not the word that he used. But he realized that he's got everything. He's got everything, and he's amassing more things. And now he's a father, which is a big responsibility. Not really a big responsibility for Krishna, because he's rich. He got servants, he got all kind of stuff like that. But I guess he didn't want to do anything. So he was like, oh man. That's when he had an epiphany. And he said, wait a minute, I'm amassing more things, and I can't consume my way to happiness. So he decides to go out and live out on the street and punish himself and inflict punishment on himself. And then he learns something else. He says, wait a minute, I don't have to inflict punishment on myself either. So he was over-consuming on the punishment. He was over-consuming on the luxury. Then he was over-consuming on the punishment. And then he realized, wait a minute, man. Listen, I don't have to overdo it, man. I'm going to just let it flow. You know what I mean? If I want to eat something, I'm going to eat it. You know what I'm saying? If I want to not live on the street, I'm not going to live on the street. But guess what? I'm going to just flow with it. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not going to inflict punishment on myself, and I'm not going to overindulge. So he was seeking something. He was feeling inadequate. So he said, oh, okay, I need to go sleep on pins and needles. Now, he did accomplish the discipline to sleep on the nails, kind of stuff like that, and sleep outside and fast for days till he was almost dying. Yes, he was able to achieve a high level of meditation and a high level of and whatever, and understanding. But it seemed like he had to go through it to get it. But at the same time, he didn't have to overdo it, you know. So everything in moderation, and you don't need that. You don't need that new car. You don't need that new pair of sneakers. You don't need a new iPhone. You know. What do you really need? You know what I mean? There's other little base things that you need. Basic things that you need that are, you know, in my case, there's basic things that I need to do that I'm neglecting, that can make my mind more at peace. One of them is renewing my trademark. The next one is renewing my barcodes, which I'm supposed to do this month. You know, I got a whole bunch of other little things that I need to do. Go ahead, baby. Go ahead. Yeah. So, there's a lot of things that I need to do. Just basic stuff. I don't need a big thing, you know. My car's acting up, but guess what? I'm working on that. I think it's my alternator now. But I'm gonna keep diagnosing. Probably spent almost $300 on my car already trying to fix it. But that's also an unsustainable kind of approach also, because I'm at 202,000 miles. I don't know how I accumulated 2,000 miles in the last 2 months, but I'm at 202,000 miles, and the lifespan, the typical expected lifespan of the vehicle is about 175,000 miles. So I'm really just like excessively pushing it. I really should, when you think about it, materially, technically, be seeking to, not even just in the long term, but immediately, as soon as possible, invest in another mode of transportation. But my sentiment, my feelings of sentimental value regarding material things are an encumbrance, and I want more of what I have already. But that's not necessarily the solution to my problem. I'm actually creating more entropy. I'm expelling possibly more resources on a vehicle that's past its designed lifespan. So anyhow, I'm not above it. I'm not above anything. I'm right here with everybody. But hey, I'm almost at my destination. I thank you so much for listening.